So basically just imagine this is on both sides. We'll wrap it around like that and that'll be it. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is going to be a make with me video about how I've made this scarf hood so far. This is inspired by the Sophie Hood by Petite Knit. However, I am freehanding it. I didn't actually buy the pattern. This is just inspired by that. I do have the Sophie Scarf pattern version that is from Petite Knit, but I didn't want to buy the Sophie Hood because I felt like I could just sort of figure it out, modify it, and freehand this. So that's what I've done. So I'm going to show you how I've made this so far. So as you can see, I've done one side completely. Oh, it's so hard to show like in the screen all in all. But yeah, I've done one side of the hood. And then I'm just over halfway. I've done like the head bit. I've done the head bit, and then now I'm onto the second scarf side. So yeah, that's what it's looking like so far. And I've like put stitch markers to close the back, but I haven't actually binded it together yet. That will be sort of the last thing that I do. So the yarn that I'm using is definitely thicker than what's recommended in the pattern, hence why I'm basically just freehanding this. So this is a chunky wool and is a color change yarn, which I'm really, really loving working with. I really wanted to knit this sort of hooded accessory with this yarn because I wanted a colorful accessory. I wanted a bit of a pop, and something that, you know, you could wear with everything to really like brighten up your outfit. So that's why I wanted to do an accessory with this yarn. So this is actually, it's called the Jewelspun Chunky Wool, and I think the brand is Sirdar. I'll write it up here. But yeah, it's the Jewelspun chunky yarn. I got it from John Lewis, and this is in the colorway Ocean Gem. And as you can see, it is so beautiful. I love all of the sort of coral colors. There's a lot of pastels, and then there's a lot of bright colors. It's so much fun to knit with. I just absolutely get on a roll with this because I don't know, I just get so excited. I'm like, all the colors are so different. I don't think I've had the exact same color twice. They've all sort of been layered with other colors. So it's just really exciting to knit with, to be like, oh, like what color am I going to get next kind of thing. So it's really exciting. This is a 200-gram ball of yarn. But I actually think I've maybe, if anything, I've stuffed up a little bit because I think I'm just going to slightly run out. So I need to figure out how I'm going to modify it so that I don't run out. So I'm going to go through how I've knitted this so far, and hopefully it makes sense. Okay guys, I'm going to show you how I started the hood, and what we're going to do is cast on 6 stitches like so. I'm doing this on 6.5mm needles. We're going to cast 6 stitches like so. 4, 5, 6. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the 6 of them, and then I'm going to just tie this in a knot just so it's out of the way. Okay, so those are our 6 stitches on the needle. Now we're going to turn this around so it's on in our left hand, and we're going to ignore your little tail. And I knit continental style, so I'm going to wrap this around my ring finger and then around my index finger. And what we're going to do is knit our first 3 stitches. So from right to left, wrap around, pull it out, pop it onto your right needle. So it's 1 stitch, 2, 3. So there's your first 3 stitches. And then what we're going to do is bring this yarn to the front of your needles, and then we're going to slip the next 3 from right to left, so purlwise. 1, 2, 3.
There you go. And then we want to turn our needle around so it's in our left hand again. Wrap it around our ring finger and then index. And then we're going to repeat that. So we're going to knit our first 3, like so. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll put our yarn in front and slip those. 1, 2, 3. So we want to do that a total of 7 times because the 8th row is when we'll do our first increase. So I'm going to do that really quickly now. So I've done that 7 times now, so we are ready for an increase because we are on our 8th row. Let's flip it around. Again, tension your yarn. And this is how we increased. So knit your first 2 stitches like normal. 1, 2. And then we're going to almost do our 3rd stitch as normal. We'll knit it, wrap it around, pull it out, but you don't want to knock that stitch off the needle just yet. We want to knit through the back. So keeping that on your needle, twist and find the gap in the back, like so. Wrap around again, and then pop it off. So you can see now we've gone from knitting 2 to now having 4. So we've just added a stitch in, like so. And then with your remaining 3, same thing, pop your yarn in front and slip those last 3 off, like so. And then turn your needle around and keep going as normal. So now you want to do 7 more rows, and then on your 8th row you'll repeat this again. I like to put a stitch marker on this side here just so I know which side I'm doing my increases on, because while you're starting it's kind of hard to see what direction it goes, but that's how you do your increases.
So you do that every 8 rows, which is what I did, so you can see whether it's increased that way. These are the increases, so you only increase on one side and then that side's straight. This side slightly increases, and you keep doing that until you get to a width of, I think I did a width of 25 centimeters. So I knitted and increased every 8th row all the way until I got to this point where it was 25 centimeters wide, and then that's where I got up to the head, and when you get to the head, the base of the neck, you want the front, basically the front where the face goes is going to be your straight side, and then the increased, like the leaning side, will be the back. And so when you're ready to knit the hood at the back, I put a stitch marker and separated those last 3, those 3 stitches that you normally slit. I just slipped those onto a stitch marker to separate them from the rest, because this I-cord edge that you have here, you don't want that to go all the way up the back seam of the hood. You want that to just be a normal bind off. So we need to sort of like knit the I-cord. So you want to knit the I-cord edge and then pause it so that you can create the back of the hood and join it with the other side of it, and then come back around and then join them together to start the I-cord edge on the other side. I don't know if that really makes any sense, but essentially to do the hood, once I separated out those 3 stitches, I just knitted straight back and forth, no increases, no decreases, for about that much. I think I could probably say I did it until the yellow stitch marker here, and then to get the curve on that crown, I think I decreased the back every 4th row, just to sort of get that gradual sort of decrease. And when I got to about here, I ended up decreasing every row. And that gave me sort of a slight curve and then more of a steeper curve as well to get to the crown. And then I got to where I knew I wanted that tip to be. And then I did all of that in reverse. I straight away increased every row until I met up with that stitch marker, and then I increased every 4th row until I got to my yellow stitch marker, and then I did a straight normal knitting without any increases until I got back to where I wanted to join my I-cord edge again. And then what I did there was I just, which is where I'm up to now, when I got to that row, I just slipped those 3 stitches that we had tied away back onto my needle and then just knitted them into the row normally. But yeah, I don't know if that really makes sense. I feel like I probably should have shown you the process as opposed to just talking about it. But that's a really quick rapid fire tutorial on how I've done the hood so far. I've had moments with this piece where I've been like, oh my god, this is taking forever. But then I've also had moments where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I just did all of that. Like the hood part of it took me like a day. Like the first side of the hood took me not even a day, less than a day. Like maybe like 4 hours solid throughout the day. But I was like shocked that I got through so much. I think the hardest part of knitting the Sophie hood and also the Sophie scarf was remembering what row you're up to, because you're only meant to increase and decrease every 8th row. And I would get so confused like which row I was up to. I could always tell if I was on an odd row or an even row because it depends like the direction you're going. Like I knew that every 8th row was the side closest to my the lean. But I could never remember if it was like 2, 4, or 6 or 8. So I definitely stuffed up a little bit on the initial side. I think I've maybe miscounted some and like increased maybe a couple rows earlier or a couple rows later, but that's okay. When I was knitting my Sophie scarf, I used a knitting counter, but to be honest, it kind of just slowed things down. So this has been completely just by remembering. And I think you get better at it as you go. You can sort of get a feel for like how long it's been since you've increased. And also you can start to read your stitches a lot better the more that you do it, especially with a chunky yarn. Like I could actually see my increases sometimes. So I would just like have to count them if I was really unsure. I feel like a lot of the colors I have left are very heavily on the blue as well. There's just not a lot left and I'm really scared. Also, the reason why I didn't buy the Sophie Hood pattern wasn't because I don't support buying patterns. I absolutely do. It's more because, I don't know, I think everyone enjoys different parts about knitting and about crafts. And for me, as much as I enjoy the actual act of making something, 50% of why I also love it is actually just the problem solving of figuring out how to do it. Like for me, that is so much fun. That's half the fun for me, aside from actually making it, is figuring out how to make it. If something is quite challenging and difficult, then absolutely buy the pattern. Or if I'm feeling lazy and I like don't want to figure something out, then yeah, I'm pro buying the pattern. But sometimes, especially because like knitting is such a, I don't know, therapeutic sort of activity, I really like being able to use my brain and problem solve and figure it out as I go. It sort of just helps stimulate it for me as well and keeps my brain going, whilst also keeping my brain relaxed. The hardest part was figuring out how steep to do the curve of the crown and then also how to rejoin the I-cord. I mean, that was actually super easy. I just wasn't sure in my brain if it was going to work, but it ended up being fine. But yeah, the curve was one that was hard. I think I actually frogged my first attempt at doing that like crown curve. because I ended up doing it too steep and it was like not a curve, it was just like a triangle line, like a straight line like that. So I ended up frogging it. That's why I ended up changing it so it wasn't decreased every row, it was more gradual. But I like that I had to figure that out, you know. I also feel like if you are wanting your piece to be absolutely perfect, then definitely buy the pattern. But I don't mind having minor errors in mine. I much prefer just having the satisfaction of like having been able to problem solve and figure it out myself. Especially because I am a beginner and I get a lot of satisfaction out of perseverance and figuring it out. That for me is why I love it and is so much fun for me. Okay, I'm going to show you this I-cord edge. So because we've got our I-cord edge here, you can sort of see how where I slipped those stitches and now it's just done a curve and we'll continue back down. And when I bind this together, like that'll be invisible. I know that like you can see the change because the color's different, but that's okay. If you're knitting the same color, it's literally going to be perfectly seamless. But yeah, that's how I joined those I-cord edges together. Okay, we're up to a decreasing row, so I'm gonna show you how I do that. I like decreasing a lot more than increasing because I feel like it actually goes a lot quicker.
So when you're ready to start your decreases, what you want to do is knit your first 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and that will keep your edge nice and consistent. And then you'll want to slip your next stitch, your 4th stitch, you want to slip it knitwise. So we're just going to scoop left to right, bring it onto our right needle and let it sit there. And then you want to knit your next stitch, your 4th one, like normal, just like that. And then you want to go back to that stitch that we slipped and scoop her up. And you want to bring it over this stitch that we just did. You might want to put your finger on it to hold it. And you'll bring it over like that. And that's how you decrease that stitch. And then you just continue knitting your row. Just like that. And so you'll do that every 8th row. So continue knitting 7 rows like normal, and then on your 8th row, you will do a decrease. You just want to make sure that you're decreasing on the same side of the work that you did your increases on. So that's increasing and decreasing on the same side.
All right, I'm going to show you how this looks so far. Oh, it's looking good. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. It's really hard to show you the whole, I have to like go all the way back here. But that's how it's looking so far. Okay, it's obviously not like nowhere near finished, but this is how it's sitting on my head so far. I've only finished this side, but this side is done. So basically just imagine this is on both sides. We'll wrap it around like that and that'll be it. And then this you can either like tie in the middle or you could just like leave it dangling at the back, which I also think is really cute. I feel like this is going to be a really fun winter accessory to just like brighten up your outfit, brighten up the day, especially living in London when it's so grey. I've definitely embraced more colour since moving here, and I just love a pop of colour now. So yeah, that's what it'll look like, and I'm excited. I'm loving it so far. I'm really glad that I did this. I also love how it's going to look with the hood down as well. Like, that's just such a cute accessory to have. So I'm just going to keep going with that. I don't know how long it's going to take me. And then I'll update you with how I finish it off at the end. But yeah, that is how I've done my Sophie inspired hood so far. I hope it's kind of helpful. But yeah, that's it so far. I'm so excited for it to be finished. But yeah, I'll update you guys on my progress later. Thanks for watching. Bye.